9th of October, 1898. Frank White, 21st of November, 1900. Norman Woodhouse, 21st of October, 1902. Reed White, 9th of April, 1905. And Howard, 10th of January, 1910. After spring house cleaning in April 1918, Mary took to her bed seriously ill. It was state conference, and her doctor, Joseph McGregor, was also stake president. On Sunday afternoon, Mary mentioned that there was a large lump on her lower abdomen, where much of the pain was located. It was the first time Mary had ever mentioned the lump, and as soon as Dr. McGregor saw it, he said, "Strangulated hernia." He took out his pocket knife, meaning to cut the muscle, but went too deep and ruptured the intestine. Mary Ann was taken to the LDS hospital in Salt Lake City, but died there the 27th of April, 1918. Her funeral was held in the old Opera House in Beaver. Even the business houses closed to show respect, for Frank was bishop and mayor of the town. Howard was only 8 years old. Frank, Norman, and Reed were teenagers. The family carried on as best it could. When Taylor married Kathleen Smith 16 months later, she became almost a second mother to the children still at home. Franklin Dewey Farnsworth was a homebody. He seldom went out in the evenings except to meetings he was required to attend. He liked to read the newspaper from cover to cover. The dining room table was generally used for studying, with Frank reading nearby. The family had a large map of the United States which covered most of one wall and gave the children a sense of the importance of U.S. history and geography. Frank loved to dance and sing. He would often sit in his rocking chair with one of his younger children and sing "My Darling Nellie Gray" or "Old Black Joe." Even with his large family, Frank was concerned about the well-being of each of his children. At one time, Dewey was preparing for marriage to a young man when he was tragically killed in a gun accident. Several people advised her to be sealed in the temple to him, but Frank wrote to her saying that it would be a serious mistake to tie herself to a dead man. He advised her to see if another opportunity did not present itself, which it did. Frank, as bishop, officiated in her marriage to Harry Thorley on the 30th of June, 1910. Frank served as a member of the school board, as a juvenile officer, a city councilman, county assessor, and as a justice of the peace. He served on the High Council of the Beaver Stake and was the second bishop of Beaver West Ward, a position he held for 10 years. In Frank's home, each day started and ended with family prayer, with the chair backs against the table. Even after ill health forced him to retire from active service, he sent 3 more of his sons on missions. With his brother William, he served for a period of time as the superintendent of the Beaver Woolen Mills. In 1898, he was elected mayor and served 2 terms in that office. In 1910, he was elected a member of the Utah State Legislature, which meant he was in Salt Lake City from November 1910 to March 1911. During this time, he wrote thoughtful letters to his family. 30th of November, 1910. Dear Mary, Taylor, Ellen, Frank, Norman, Reed, and Howard, how I would like to be with you tonight. You must not get frightened when you read this. I have the smallpox, and I am going out to the hospital to stay until it will be safe for me to come home. Now do not worry. If you could see me, you would see there is no cause for alarm. The time will not be very long, and then I'll come a-running. Taylor, I will try to get some music for you and bring it with me. Goodbye, and kisses for all hands. Your affectionate husband and father. 20 years after his first term, Frank was again elected mayor of Beaver, and again he served 2 terms. Franklin Dewey Farnsworth was about 6 feet tall with dark eyes and brown hair. When he was amused, his eyes would twinkle, and when he laughed, he had a habit of almost closing them. He expected much from his children, and they lived up to his expectations. He was a kind and loving father who was always interested in the welfare and well-being of his children. As children came to Taylor and Kathleen, Frank enjoyed the role of grandfather. He usually had candy treats for the grandchildren and would rock them and sing "Poor Babes in the Woods." During the summer of 1925, Frank suffered a stroke, which left him speechless and partly paralyzed on his right side. He could still walk, but had to use a cane. His health gradually deteriorated, and he died 8th of August, 1928, in the south bedroom of the family home, the same room where his son Taylor would die 40 years later. 13 of his 14 children survived him. Also 53 grandchildren, and 10 great-grandchildren, and that was only the beginning. It might be said of him, as was said of an earlier Farnsworth in 1892, "I could say concerning my father, he was Farnsworth through and through, and that is a good enough recommend for anybody."